This is Reuters. I'm Ruben Ramirez. Joining us today is John Reel, president of Brinker International. Brinker, of course, owns Chili's, Maggiano's, and On the Border. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ruben.
When you look at the current global economic environment, what are you seeing?
Some similarity to the U.S., the downturn in the U.S. economy, but also some markets that are really strong. For us, Mexico, outside of Mexico City, is acting a little bit like the U.S. business. But when you get into the Middle East is still performing extremely well. We've seen a small downturn, but still strong single-digit high comp sales in the Middle East. And in Asia, we've weathered the storm pretty well in Asia. We feel very good. Our comp sales are still very good and positive in Asia. So, we're seeing a little bit different reaction internationally than we do in our domestic markets.
Given the current environment, you say you expect to open about 50 stores this year. What are your plans as you look ahead to 2010?
Well, I think 2010 will be a very similar number. And I think every year after that, we'll probably be opening at least 60 restaurants a year. Our goal is to, by the end of 2014, to have 500 restaurants. That's our vision. We have the franchisees and the developers to be able to do that. We have the big advantage is that we have a portfolio of brands, so we have multiple brands that we can build with Chili's Grill and Bar, the On the Border Mexican Grill and Cantina, and Maggiano's. So we feel like that there's a world of opportunity out there for us.
You have a strong presence in Mexico and in the Middle East. What other markets are you looking at?
Well, I think for the future, the big markets for us are Brazil. How do we get in, do business in Brazil, in Russia, and in China? I think those, if you were to group the big three for us, those would be the three that we're not doing business in today that would grow. Obviously, I didn't mention India because we're opening our first restaurant in India on May 8th, which will be our brand launch into Bangalore.
And when you look at the real estate market, real estate prices have been sky high the past few years. What are you seeing now, and what sort of opportunities are you seeing there to get into new markets?
Yeah, when we look at real estate, it's such a great opportunity today that we've seen real estate in some areas drop 30–40%. We have our franchise partners that before wouldn't even be able to get some of this real estate, but now it's become available and it's much less costly as it was at one time. So for the people that are well capitalized, this downturn is going to be a pretty big opportunity for them to grow and get prime sites that before they would never be able to get.
As we head into the second quarter of this year, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the remainder of the year?
The biggest challenge is to see, how, the economy that's really hit the U.S. and Europe pretty hard, how does that play out the rest of the world? Now, we've seen, like I said, a slight downturn in the Middle East. We've been pretty fortunate there. So for me, it's, how much harder does it get, let's say, in areas outside of Mexico City, which really stays pretty in tune with the U.S. business. So I think those are our big markets. Like, we'll open up our 100th restaurant in Latin America at the end of April, and we have 61 restaurants in the Middle East. So when you look at, where are we really strong, those are our two core markets. So for me, those are the two most important markets for us, for Brinker International going forward.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it, Ruben. Thank you.
500 stores in 5 years. That was John Reel, president of Brinker International, owner, of course, of Chili's, Maggiano's, and On the Border. For Reuters, I'm Ruben Ramirez. Thanks for joining us.